Hey, hi, and welcome back to the Southern Millennial Mom podcast. I am Samantha May, and I'm your official Southern Millennial Mom. First off, I want to thank everybody that is returning to this podcast. I am so excited, thrilled, and appreciative that you have decided to return. If you're new here, you might be a few episodes ahead of where you need to be. I do highly recommend that you go back. But today, I have a very special guest, my eldest sister-in-law, Whitney, who I've known for 15 years now. She is my husband's eldest sister. You know, I really kind of enjoy telling people how many kids your mom has because I love seeing their face.
So, yes, we have 5 kids, Daniel and I, and we've been married for 18 years now. We live in Mississippi, stay-at-home homeschool mom. We have our ages, and our kids are 16 to 2.
For me, that seems crazy because, you know, Ryan and I, when we were talking about kids, we were talking about at the most 4. I was like, didn't know like what ages to like separate them, the years to separate them. But you got, 16 to 2, and that's like, wow.
I don't know that it was something that Daniel and I like planned out. I think we knew we wanted to have a large family, like 4 or 5 kids. But as far as like spacing, I don't know that we like planned it. That's just sort of the way it happened. Organically. So like all my girls are like 4.5 years apart. My son D, he's like 3.5, 4 years younger than my oldest daughter. He's about 19 months older than my daughter Liz. They're the closest I've had, but I don't know that I actually just planned it.
I want to say technically D was your first planned kid.
Yes. So I think Daniel and I got married in January, and we got pregnant pretty close after we got married. And we had her in December of that same year. So yes, 11 months later, we were, living on love and dying on time.
So we will start just getting into the questions for today's topic. We're talking about, I don't want to say the differences or the comparison of having a certain number of kids or having no kids, because that makes it seem like one is better than the other, if you know what I mean. Sure. But I think there are a lot of people that do think, having one kid is the best, having no kids is the best, or having 9 kids is the best. But I think if we hear from like somebody like myself who just has Boo, and you who has kids ages from 16 to 2, people can kind of see, it's not really like what you said earlier. It's just what happens. I guess you feel like you're ready for, because there are a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, I want to have this many kids, and they find out that they can't handle that many. As I was saying before, I wanted to have 4 kids. Unfortunately, I didn't know anything about raising kids, about being a mom. That kind of didn't register until after I had Boo. And I know you helped your mom with all your younger siblings. I was like, I want 4 kids. I don't want anybody to get that middle child mindset. But I technically was the middle child because there was the eldest brother, Travis, then there was me, and then there was my brother, Trevor. I was the middle child. But while I didn't feel like neglected or forgotten about, I hear like a lot of stories or see a lot of funny skits about the middle child being left out or forgotten. But we're going to move on for that. Apologize for all the rabbit trails. And we will get into some of the questions I have for you. The first question, how many kids did you plan on having? And when talking with Daniel, did he have a number that he wanted?
So, funny enough, like, literally Daniel and I's first date, I had one question for him, and I said, Jesus as your personal savior, because that was extremely important to me. And I basically followed with two statements. One, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, and two, I would like, 4 or 5 kids. It was kind of like, this is where I'm at, and if that's not good for you,
Bye.
he probably decided he was going to marry me right then. And, going through your questions, and I was thinking back on those years, and, I had come through kind of a rough, rebellious sort of teenager kind of time. Right. And so, my thoughts were not in line with the Lord's thoughts. And so when I met Daniel, I had spent the past year really just tuning in my heart to what the Lord wanted for me and what his purpose for me was. And it made me think also back to like a recent conversation I just had with my teenage daughter, and where we talked about, relationships, because she's at that age.
She is.
And these conversations are very, very important. And I told her that as Christians, and we develop that relationship with the Lord, our desires, our wants in life become naturally in tune with what God wants us to do. And luckily he knows we're human, right? So everything we do is not going to be what the Lord wanted us to do, but when he has a purpose for our lives, and he's going to see it through. And I was just thinking about that on the way over here, because even though that's the way Daniel and I started with this is what I want. And I was very solid in my relationship with the Lord at that time. That's not always been the case throughout.
Oh yeah, definitely.
My whole life, because he knows I'm not perfect. He knows I'm broken in places, and to see how he has still fulfilled desires of my heart. He still has fulfilled his promises and purpose in my life. It just speaks volumes to his faithfulness, even among my unfaithfulness. Like you were saying, everybody's family looks different, but we all have one common goal and one common purpose as Christians, at least if you're a believer in Jesus, and I pray that you are, to anyone who's listening today. But as a believer in Jesus, we have one common goal, and that is to teach the gospel, and that's going to look different. And for me, the Lord made it very clear to me at a very young age that he was going to do that through my children. And I've seen the fruit of that. Like my older kids, they've developed their relationship with the Lord, and it's just been so beautiful and so perfect. And I was just thinking about that on the way over here, about his faithfulness despite my unfaithfulness. And yeah.
When thinking about the number of kids, was there, with mine, the not wanting to have a middle child, but, evidently I only had the one. Was there, with the number of kids, and, I know you said it was just what happened, but when you were thinking about the number of kids, was there a significance in the number?
I don't think there was a significance in the number necessarily. I mean, I grew up in a large family, like you said, and so I was the second oldest. And so for me, I love kids, and Daniel's the same way. We love our kids. We love spending time with them, and we just know that's where we're supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And so that's for us. And so know that I don't know that there's actually
Number significance.
there's not a number significance. It's just like the Lord has blessed us, and
And you're stopping at 5. Or
so like as far as like having more kids, I mean, I've kind of come to this point, and Daniel and I've come to this point that we'll know if we need to have more kids, or we will, the Lord will make that relevant in our life or not. That's not. We're not really like we're never having another kid, but we're not necessarily like, oh, we definitely
yeah,
having
it's
another
like,
kid.
oh, I know. Several years ago, you and Daniel were talking about adopting, or at least fostering. Would fostering be something that you felt called to do?
Killing me. Okay.
I'm sorry, that is not one of the questions, but it is something that, just hit me.
Yeah.
That I felt like needed to be said, because there are the people that, can't have kids.
Sure.
And, they can't afford, that sounds bad, they can't afford to adopt a kid, but adoption is very expensive, and we know several people that, no, maybe not, in the same friend group, but we've had people that have adopted children, and it's a super, super lengthy process.
So, the story about Daniel and I and our adoption story is complex, and I don't have all the answers for that one. There are some things that I'm still having to process, honestly. So after we had our number 4, she was about 2 or 3 years old when we started the adoption process.
Yeah.
We definitely felt the Lord calling us to that. So we were trying to do domestic, but we were also looking to international adoption. And in the end, we started looking into like adopting kids who are up for adoption in the United States through the foster system.
Yeah.
That's a very complicated process. Probably don't want to get into all the details about that today. Yeah, I don't know what to say as far as like, it didn't end up working out, but one of the weird things was, so I guess I should say more of a God thing, really. Our adoption story sort of ended with us getting pregnant with number 5. We were literally at the top of the list, and we were having to renew our home study.
Yeah.
And within a few weeks, we were pregnant with our number 5. So we didn't really know why. We had a lot of questions. We went through a lot of like a weird time of questions. I look back on it, I know a lot more than I did, and I don't know that story's over. Like I said, the Lord has called us to fulfill our purpose through our children and through children, period. So you never know what the Lord's gonna, and we're open to whatever the Lord has for us. So we don't have any like stipulations on the number of kids we have, or the stipulations on the ones we bring into our home. That's just because we don't know what the Lord has in store for us.
So I know you have 4 girls and D.
Right.
A poor boy, like he is outnumbered right now, because we have him.
Yeah, there's only like 3 boys.
There are 3 boys in the family now.
Yeah. So DW, he is so funny. He keeps us rolling, but he is definitely outnumbered. He is.
Well, for as long as I've known him, he's never really kind of taken it personally that there are so many girls around.
Right.
But he goes with the flow whenever, I see him. He's able to find his own space from them.
Right. And we do it, like, we make sure he has his buddies, and he's very social, so he loves to spend time with his buddies, and we make sure he gets that. And he's just super go with the flow, and he's a people pleaser.
But I know him and Boo are pretty close, because she's always been that good mix of girly but also tomboy.
Right.
And she's still that way. Yeah.
Like, she really plays really good with her boy cousin. That's
Yeah.
cousins.
Yeah.
Her close to her age. She just likes to roll with the girls and the boys.
And that's I love that for her.
Yeah.
And
But it's the same way. She's always been good at being diverse
mhm.
in her ability to play with everyone. And, well, you had asked me about middle children, and I guess being like one of the older kids in our family dynamic, I haven't really thought about how middle child feels sometimes, I guess.
Mhm.
Or feels forgotten, but I know, like, Liz really, like, I'm the middle child.
See, she gives off middle child energy.
Yes, she's very much like, she thinks she's forgotten, which is.
She's very much not, but I think there's
she's different. She's very
she's unique in the aspect of your children.
she feels very, very deeply about things, so we have to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's also preteen.
Oh,
So
I know
everything is multiplied by 10. So her energy. So I definitely see the middle child in her for sure. She's.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell her, like, according to a lot of, studies that I've seen or read, the middle child ends up being the most normal, so it's okay. To be the middle child, you're a little bit tougher, and she's pretty cool doing her own thing, so.
Yeah.
But she was a little, all my kids have had, quite a few years of being the youngest, for the most part, besides
Dave.
So they all have a little bit of, that baby complex.
Yeah, being the youngest. And, it's probably really a good thing, the kind of like the age difference between Joe and baby number 5, because there wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't a long time before the baby came, but there was enough time where she didn't get into the mindset, I'm the baby of the family, all the attention has to be on me. And I think she does very well with her baby sister, that she treats her like the baby.
Sure, and Joe's very good about that, but she's definitely got some.
Oh, she still has some of that mindset of being the youngest.
I definitely think she has some of that, mostly because she's been more attached to me than any of the other ones have ever been. She's super, like, attached to me. We're attached on a different level than any of the other children. Yeah.
Joe's a pandemic baby.
No, baby number 5 is the pandemic baby.
Oh yeah. Well,
So Joe was like 4. Yeah. So
2023.
So she was 4 years old in 2020. Baby number 5 was born in 2020. So yeah.
Really?
Yes.
See, I know this, but I'm so bad with ages.
Right. Well, that's okay. It's hard for me to forget where
You were there.
yeah, the pandemic baby and the pandemic pregnancy.
Yeah.
And it came with its own unique challenges.
Well, think of that with Jo being so young and being in her learnative years, the early learnative years. She couldn't go out and interact with any of the kids her age. She couldn't go to cousin's house if somebody there was sick or things like that. And I think she felt more of a necessity to cling to you more, if that makes sense.
She literally came out of the womb angry that she was born. Because if she could still be in my womb today, she would still be in my womb. Like, she did not like being born. She's been attached to me. Like, we have this unique attachment since the day she was born.
Yeah.
She does not like being away from me ever.
But also, she's so freaking independent.
Yes, she is like the bravest child I know. I tell everyone she's the reason I have gray hairs. She loves animals, and so she lives
life by her own style.
Right. And if she's afraid of anything, it's being alone. She doesn't like that. And so she's very attached to me, and I think that's why. But anything else, all things go.
Yeah. So, did you ever think at growing up that you might have difficulties getting pregnant, or did you think it's wham bam, there's the kid?
So, fertility is not one of those struggles that Daniel and I have had to have, and I definitely want to be sensitive to people who do have that struggle. But that's not my story, and so I'll just speak. One time I had a ultrasound, and the doctor literally laughed when she looked at my ovaries and was like, "You don't have any problems getting pregnant, do you?" I was like, no. But, that's not, so yes, we've never had any trouble getting pregnant. Really, I think actually, no, it took us like 8 months. But that actually was a God thing too, because the Lord knew what we had going on, and he was born at the perfect time.
He was.
And so it was all fine. And
when I know for at least I want to say the last 2, you struggled with, I don't want to say you struggled, but you had some issues while you were pregnant. Like, you couldn't ingest a lot of food because it would mess up your body chemistry, at least with baby I.
Sure. Every pregnancy has been completely different. And so for the first 2, or actually first 3, I was definitely physically, it was probably my easiest ones. I was in my 20s, early 20s really. Yeah. And so those were pretty physically okay, but every pregnancy has been so different from a physical aspect, from a mental aspect, from where we were in life or where I was at. So for me, between DW and Liz, there was only 19 months between them.
Yeah.
And I did not do very well getting pregnant back to back because I just got done breastfeeding D. And I don't have a cycle. Can I say that on?
Yeah, go for it. It's going to be a conversation, an episode later on, because those kind of things are important to know if you're wanting to have kids back to back.
Right. So I don't have a cycle when I'm nursing. And I was very anti-birth control while I'm nursing.
Yeah, that makes sense because they didn't.
Because it affected my supply. So,
well, they mostly had hormonal birth controls out. Like the one that I'm using, it's non-hormonal, and I can tell the difference because between this one and the last one I had, my depression was so bad, as well as my anxiety, because those hormones were messing with my natural chemistry.
Right. So I had just got done nursing D, and I had one cycle, and I got pregnant with Liz, and so my body just never had any time to acclimate
to not being pregnant.
Or just having that postpartum sort of recovery.
Yeah.
I just did not do very well. And so I had a lot of depression when I was pregnant with Liz, which was very difficult to get through. Now, physically, I was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of morning sickness, but with Joe and I'll just say Isla. So with Isla, I had a lot of morning sickness. I was much older, so physically it was much more difficult. But there are definitely some difficulties, but I'm not going to harp on those because that's just sort of, a small part of the whole story. And so there's some wonderful things about being pregnant that I totally enjoyed.
I was about to ask, what are some of the things that you miss about being pregnant?
Well, you just miss that one-on-one, nobody else can, you're sharing something with that baby that nobody else has. And so the movements, and you kind of get to know them, and it's just you and them for a while, and you feel like you know them already. So a lot of times, and with Liz, I did kind of miss that in the beginning, and I feel but I think there was a major cloud during that entire pregnancy. And I remember just praying, Lord, please take this away from me. And there's a really interesting story. I'm not going to get into that today, but literally the moment she was born, that cloud was gone.
Yeah.
And the Lord just fulfilled His promise to me and just was like,
this is why.
Yeah. So it was a struggle, but literally the best postpartum, best nursing, number 3. She was just best postpartum experience I've had with her. So the recovery for her was just, really good, and just our connection was instant, and it was just, so I don't really want to, I feel like a lot of times in our world today, we get so stuck on the hard things about pregnancy.
Yes.
And it's pregnancy was not meant to be easy.
But, because,
not that we shouldn't speak about them, our hardships, but we shouldn't get stuck on them as if to discourage us.
Oh, yeah.
because our bodies are doing something like amazing and beautiful, and so I don't want to like get stuck on the hard things because there are so many good things that I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget what it like feels like for a baby to be moving inside of you, knowing that your body is literally growing a human being. It's amazing.
I think we grew up in the generations of all you hear about is the worst of pregnancy, the morning sickness, the feeling fat, feeling lethargic, swelling ankles. Nobody really talked about the good things. You're growing something, but you're also becoming somebody's parent. And well, because I knew nothing really other than textbook education about being pregnant.
And that's what, and it's understandable to kind of get overwhelmed with it because it's like, unless you've been through it, you don't really know what to expect.
Or you've been close with somebody who's been pregnant. Because I think the first newborn I held was D.
Right.
It was either D or AK. That's her my brother-in-law's oldest girl.
Right. So AK was born first, so
yeah.
DW would have been second. I don't really know.
But, just seeing that and, but I think D being, we'll say, the second newborn I ever held, I think I looked at his face and I was like, I could suffer through morning sickness and swollen ankles and nausea and all these bad things to have one of my own.
Sure. And it's kind of, and it's certainly not fun. The morning sickness can be excruciating. The hard things are hard.
They are.
And it's good to be able to talk about them, but also have support, and not that we, so.
Exactly, because there are so many things.
And I remember, can I just say this one thing? I remember when I was pregnant with Joe, and I was so sick. I think I was sick for 7 straight months.
You were.
I threw up almost every day. And I remember you coming to the house and bringing me some ginger tea.
Yes, I did.
And it was very sweet. And I remember so many mornings trying to fix it and going and not being able to tolerate the smell at all. And it was like, this is supposed to make me feel better. And it was like, and I would choke it down. It was funny.
Well, one of the things, like when I have friends that are becoming parents for the first time, or I see somebody post on social media, wanting advice on certain things, one of the things that I really is my go-to is to have first-time moms ask about the 24-hour antacid indigestion thing, as I didn't get that until like the 3rd month, like toward the end of my first trimester.
Right.
Because my doctor didn't say anything. He didn't ask if I was like really suffering with the morning sickness, heartburn, and indigestion. Like, I'm pretty sure I lost weight during my first trimester because I couldn't. Like, I was lucky maybe to get 1 meal down a day.
Right. And so, like, I dealt with the same thing as, like, there's not a lot of people, like, anybody asks me and they're like, they have morning sickness, and it was number 5 before somebody said protein. Protein is the cure-all for morning sickness. A lot of times, unless you have, like, that chronic morning sickness, Not really sure what the name of that is, but
Are talking about the sickness
it
will
was
last all day?
So yes, so I would tell my doctor, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But then I remember with my number 5, and I had a midwife that time. So she had me. She was like, "How much protein are you getting?" And I was like, "I'm literally like laying on the couch for 2 weeks and doing nothing." So nothing. And she's like, "Start sipping protein drink and just keep down what you can get down." And probably within 2 weeks, I had very little, almost no morning sickness.
One of the things that I craved while being pregnant, and I didn't know this until, after having, though, what you crave is what your body's telling you need. So what my body was needing was obviously iron.
Right.
And I'm guessing protein as well, because I craved the chicken nachos from the local Mexican restaurant and those Slim Jims.
Right.
And it was only one glass of milk, and it had to be in the morning.
Right. And so that would be your protein, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's kind of funny how each pregnancy is different, and everybody's is different, and their body responds differently too. So my best advice for anybody that's having kids is, unfortunately, it's not that great, because I know nothing. Because literally they're all different.
They are.
There are some tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years, but that work for me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And so it's like, you literally, like, and some people ask me about sleep training, or like skin to skin, or sharing a bed, and I was like, literally had to do whatever worked. And I don't have like, I'm only doing this or I'm only doing that, because every kid is different, right?
So we're gonna get into, I guess, kind of serious, kind of not. So we're gonna talk about finances, and yes, it's one of those icky conversations, but
right. So those for me are like, those are worldly conditions that don't have anything to do with me, in the sense of, like, when we started having children, we didn't have anything. But my kids have never done without.
Exactly.
And I don't think that my finances have anything to do with, my purpose. And so the Lord has seen us through all those things. It's not that we're not, like, need to be responsible with our finances, but at the same time, like, my children they're not a financial burden either. Yeah. Like, do they cost a lot of money? Yes. Do I care? No.
Was there ever a time where I know, you kind of basically just said this. Do you ever felt like there was time that you should go out and get a job? Because I know there were a few times when Boo was very young that while we weren't struggling, I felt like we could have been more financially stable. And I really hate that phrase, financially stable, because no one will ever be that way until they're dead. Because then you don't have to worry about it anymore.
I mean, you have a child, you're responsible for taking care of that child. Would you have more money if you didn't have that child? Sure. Once again, has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, I meant to ask this early on.
Not that your question doesn't matter. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying.
Oh, like, no. I fully understand.
Like, so I'm coming from a kingdom-minded perspective in the sense of like you and I have the same perspective that, you know, the Lord gave us our children.
Mm-hmm.
And when they have a purpose, the Lord's going to see us through that.
Yes.
You know, and He's going to provide. Our children have lacked in nothing. I mean, we live
yes.
in, you know, the United States of America, and so trust me, our kids have not lacked in anything.
They
Or
do
we
have a lot
not
of
lacked in anything.
Yes, they do have a lot of first world problems.
Yeah, they have not had to live without anything, and we have not had to live out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've never had any real serious. Yeah. Like, our bills got paid.
Mm-hmm.
We might not have got to eat out as much every once in a while or whatever. There have definitely been times like that, and we have to be responsible with the money that we do have. Sure.
When Boo was really young, you know, like I said, I felt like I needed to at least do something, and I had one job, and that lasted maybe 2 weeks. And I was with my best friend Kim's realty company that she worked for, and they were wanting to build a website, and I kind of knew how, but I couldn't fully remember, so I'd go there and, you know, I'd be researching how to do this stuff. And then I was like, it came to the point, I told her, I can't remember how to do this, so, you know, you're going to have to find somebody else. But I also I felt in my heart that I was not supposed to be working. Like, the devil put that doubt in me. It's like, do you have enough money to do all of these things?
So I think to go back to your question, have I considered getting a job at some point? Sure. But Daniel and I have kind of always stuck to that first conversation that we had on our first date. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and he's kind of held me to that. And he's taken that upon himself, and I've never had a peace about having a job outside the home. Now, have I worked and done different things? I've worked at a B&B, you know, when the kids were a little bit older. I do some tutoring now, but as far as working outside the home, it's like a job. I have never had a peace about that, so it's not been for me.
So when it comes to like budgeting, like, is there like a set way that you do it, or does your budget change, we'll say month to month? Because for me, it's basically a weekly thing. Because I am a stay-at-home mom, Ryan brings in the bacon. I try to spend $200 on groceries weekly, which right now is really, really hard. And
so as far as like our budget, Daniel handles a lot, you know, the majority of our finances, and
he's a numbers guy.
Right. So he's very good with that, and for the sake of we don't want to spend a lot of time arguing about it, I just kind of roll with it, and it works for us. So as far as like budgeting for, you know, we just sort of make a plan of what we need. As far as groceries, with 5 kids, there's no budget. Okay?
Yeah.
Just take the budget and get rid of it, because you will live in defeat.
Yeah, I can
especially
understand that.
in times like this. So there's not really a budget. And you probably don't want me to tell you how much I spend on groceries a month. Well, I don't want to be a discouragement to people who might want a bigger family. But
you have a Sam's membership, so
well, sure, but you know, we do things like that, and
But you're not going to the grocery store weekly to get necessities. It may be like, or non-necessities.
Right. So, like, as far as like non-necessities, I mean,
it's like we can go a month without this box of chips. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it really looks different to whatever. I mean, like, we don't.
I do have to say, food-wise, I've been kind of blessed with a not-so-picky eater.
Right.
And someone, while she pretends to fight it sometimes, she's willing to try something once. And I think that also helps when it comes to grocery bills. Like, if I know she won't eat something, but if I want it, I'll get it for myself as a treat, maybe once every couple of weeks when I do the grocery shopping.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, my kids aren't super picky, but, you know, we have snacks. They get plenty to eat. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we don't really have a budget for food.
And also, you have a teenage boy.
Well, sure, yes.
Though that's kind of a misnomer, because
I don't know that he just sits there and, like, eats a lot, but I guess.
Boo! Like, I feel like she is always eating.
Right, they just eat all the time. I mean, but, especially the little ones, they're snackers, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway. We don't do very well with the grocery budget. No, that does not existent. We do try to limit, like, extracurricular.
Yeah.
Right. So
that was kind of one of the questions. Do you ever feel like you're missing out when it comes to having a lot of kids, financial wise, like certain luxuries? Or are you kind of like me and you can wait a couple years, and when the newest model comes out and you get the model that you initially wanted?
You mean like vehicles or something?
Like vehicles, phones.
Oh, I guess having the latest and the greatest of things is not really something I care about. And I'm pretty, like, I have an old phone, and I have a pretty new car. Like, it's a pretty.
Oh yeah.
I have a very nice car, I think. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking, gosh, I really wish I could have I don't really have that keeping up with the Joneses complex, so I don't think I'm missing out, and I don't really think my kids are missing out because they have nice things. We have nice things. There were definitely times, depending on where we were at in our life, especially when Daniel was in college,
Oh yeah.
we didn't have as much as we probably have now, but we still, like, I look back and I was like, we basically live the same because my kids still have more than enough.
We always seen
had more than enough.
Your kids have always been happy. I'll hear them say, I want this, and I'm like, okay, that could be a future gift, a birthday gift, Christmas gift. But some of the things they're like, I want the newest thing, and I'm like, do you need the newest thing? What's wrong with the one you have now?
Right, and I don't know. I don't really want my kids to feel like they need to measure up to. Not that I don't want them to have nice things or work for things they want.
I think it really helps that you're not you don't really complain about not having the best thing, the best clothes, the best phone, car, house, things like this.
And what is the best?
I know, right? Because everybody likes something different.
Sorry.
Well, and I've been in the same mindset as you. I've always known that I will never. Well, I may never be able to keep up with the Joneses, and I think the Joneses can't keep up with the stories about themselves.
Right, it is like, once again, that doesn't have it. you know, those are worldly perspectives. Those are worldly goals that people think they're supposed to measure up to. And those are not to say that there's anything wrong with having nice things. And we have nice things. We have lots and lots of nice things. When I may not feel like I need to go buy the brand new car, or have the brand new phone, or have the designer clothes, but I still have nice clothes, and I still buy my kids nice clothes.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know.
Right. Let's talk about going out to eat.
Right.
Currently for us, it's not something we do a lot because, well, for one, we had limited ourselves to twice a week. Tuesday and Thursday, because those are the days we go to Taekwondo and stuff like that. But now, since they've started cutting back on Ryan's check at work, there's a whole situation behind that. I'll tell you about it later. But he's started, like, we sat on the front porch one morning drinking our coffee and just started talking about, you know, the finances stuff and going out to eat and things like that. But,
yeah, so, like, as far as going out to eat, and that has looked different over the years. Here lately, we probably eat out at least once a week because of what we have going on, and it's just literally impossible to...
Yeah. By the time you get home, it's too late to cook.
There's nothing I can... I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I feel that.
I don't want to do that much prepping. So, like, on Monday, my kids are in classical conversations, and when we get out of classical conversations, my son has to go straight to football. I mean, I have to prep lunch already, so prepping dinner is impossible, like, because I'm not at home. So, and I leave football, I drop him off at football, and then I take her to 40 minutes down the road to dance. So we're not getting home till like 7:30.
Oh yeah,
on a Monday night. It's impossible. Like, you know.
Yeah,
so,
you're gonna have there may be maybe not a lot of people.
Unless they eat a grilled cheese or whatever. But so I would say like once a week we eat out. We try to limit it to once a week. If we have to do it twice a week, it's not great because it 7 people eating out, that's that's not cheap.
Well, even before all the price gouges.
Oh Lord.
Sorry. The other day I went to Sonic after Taekwondo. I wasn't going to go to Zaxby's, but the drive-through line was too long, and I wasn't going to sit in the road. So I went to Sonic, and I ordered 3 meals, 3 medium-sized meals. It cost me $30 and change. At Sonic.
We don't even talk what my Sonic bill would look like.
But yes,
you just go ahead and double that.
But exactly, it's
you're used to spending like maybe 10 or 15, whereas like I get it. But yeah, and double that would be cheap for us. So, like if we spend under $100 to go out to eat, we're doing good.
All right. Sticking with the going out to eat, does any of your kids' dietary restrictions limit where you go to eat? Like, if y'all just decided, it's like, tonight we're going to go out to dinner.
Well, I don't think so. Like, the kids that kind of have, like maybe dairy issues or something, they just won't order something with dairy in it. Or, like if Dee has football on Monday nights, right? Like, so we're not going to go get Wendy's hamburger and some fries because that's got a lot of grease on it and we don't want him puking on the field.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have said that.
No.
podcast friendly.
You're such a mom.
So yeah, I mean, I always take in consideration, and we don't eat a lot of like fast food anyway, just because for that reason right there. It's just like it doesn't sit well with us.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right. When, like, if y'all are out and, like, y'all have done running errands, so it's not a serious question. It's kind of a funny question. And y'all are like, all right, we're going to pick up some dinner on the way. Do y'all do majority vote or parents' decision?
So, depending on what we have going on, and it depends. It really just depends on what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say Mondays, usually I'm going to say, hey, we're going to get pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's our cheapest, quickest option.
Yeah.
And I don't have to sit there and go, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Like, I know what everybody wants, and I'm just going to go get it. But, you know, every once in a while, I'll get a wild hair and we'll do something different.
Yeah.
So, sure. We'll ask what everybody wants, depending, like, if we're on vacation or something. What do y'all want to eat? That sort of thing.
Kind of like the majority are like, we want hamburgers, or I know at least one of your kids doesn't like seafood. Two of them.
No, like none of my kids like seafood except
That is
for me and
insane
Liz.
to
I
me.
know it's terrible. So, but sometimes, like, especially like if we go to the beach or something, I'm like, sorry, mom's taking you to a seafood restaurant because this is my vacation too.
Exactly.
And you can order the burger at a seafood restaurant.
You know, I think a
Or
lot
the
of
chicken
parents forget that, you know, you want to be accommodating when you go out to eat with your kids, but you're also treating yourself because, like, I normally don't get to eat this, whatever it is. I can't think of anything good.
Right. So, like, if we eat out, like, somewhere special, then, you know.
It's my treat, too. Don't be so selfish.
Right. We'll just try to go to a diverse place where they have lots of different options, too.
If you didn't have to worry about money or any of the kids' dietary restrictions, what is one place that you know all of them would like to go out to eat?
Like a specific restaurant?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Well,
With no limit for money, like somebody is paying for your meal, and none of the dietary issues are a
I
thing.
know that I have like a specific restaurant. I mean, like we have one in Flowood we enjoy a good bit. But like on vacation, we'll splurge. We'll go to a nice restaurant. But we don't do that a whole lot.
Well, you know, if there's...
But I don't know like an actual specific
Yeah.
restaurant. But there's an occasion where we, you know, we'll like whatever. Like we went and had hibachi and sat down at the table for vacation. Like maybe that wasn't this year, it was last year. You know, that was a lot of fun to do that. And that was just sort of a special treat for everybody.
Yeah, because you don't get to do that all that often. I think... I guess because Boo doesn't really have any dietary, overly active dietary restrictions. She's slightly lactose intolerant, and it's something I didn't realize until like last year. And I feel like a terrible mother that her being lactose intolerant was a thing.
Right.
But I think if we were no limit, no financial limit, she'd want to go to the local sushi thing. And if she could eat all the sushi she wanted, we'd do that because all of us love sushi. We had sushi last night for dinner.
Right.
We had Kroger sushi. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, is it pretty good?
Oh, it's so good.
Huh. I'm going to have to try that.
It's half off on Wednesdays. Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And
I'm going to have to go get some on Monday. Thank you for the tip.
and it's like a big pack of like 30 pieces is maybe $25. Relatively cheap, I guess. But
This one seems I'll probably be the only one to eat it, but
well, they have all the different kinds. It'd be like
they have smaller ones, bigger ones.
and
Yeah,
those aren't all that expensive either.
that's cool.
We love it.
All right.
We'll do one more question. Let's talk vacations.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think the number of kids limits where you can go on vacation? Or allows you to do more because of the kids?
I don't know that the number of kids necessarily limits. I mean, I guess there are so we like to go camping. That's sort of our thing. So we have a camper and we like to go camping, and so we can pretty much
go on vacation whenever you want, and that's
right. And so we take little trips.
Yeah.
We went to Atlanta, Georgia, not too long ago. Or next weekend we're going to Natchez, and so doing a little historical, educational fun trip. And so we do different things like that. I mean, sure. Are there some things like the likely, then that really doesn't have anything to do with the number of kids we have. I don't, more or less, the finances. You mean from a financial standpoint?
There's, I guess so.
Because, I feel like I could do whatever,
I know.
Mentally, I could do anything with all 5 of my kids versus one kid. It would be any different to me. But as far as, would it be cheaper to take one kid to Disney World versus 5 kids? Sure. But I don't think, we've never been to Disney World. And that, I don't know if that's really a financial thing or a personal preference thing, because
I don't. Has any of your kids actually just expressed consistent desire to go to Disney World?
And I think so, but it's more like Daniel's not. He doesn't love that sort of atmosphere.
Yeah, it's very chaotic there.
It's a lot of people. And I think, with the kids being young, I think that kind of,
It's it's harder to go with a 2-year-old.
Overwhelms him a little bit. I don't know if there's a mommy or not. I've only been, once in my whole life, so. But, that's more of a personal preference than a limitation.
When you're planning vacations, even just the weekend trips, do you ask the kids where they want to go, or what they like to do? Because I know you got 2 that are younger than 10.
Right. That's a good question, and I don't know that I do ask.
You just go and tell them, hey, we're going camping this weekend.
Hey, right. I'll just be like, hey, we're going, so we've gone camping at the beach, and this year we've gone to Atlanta, we're going to Natchez, So we just try to like change it up.
Mhm.
So we're not just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And they get to see and do different things. And they're like, and so one of my things this year was like, I really want to see different parts of Mississippi because there's some places, like, I've never been to Natchez. It's one of the
Neither have
oldest cities in our state.
You've been here your whole life. I've been here 23
Why have I not
years.
been to
Exactly.
Natchez? Ever. So, I mean, that's going to be fun for us because we're going to get to see like a really historical part of our state. And I've been wanting, and I'm taking them to Vicksburg, which is, you know, the siege of Vicksburg, you know, Civil War part there. And so that's going to be fun.
Has there been
For
anywhere
me.
that the kids have all said at some point, but all of them that can express their opinions, said that they want to go on vacation? Because, you know, they go to the beach a lot. Because we got family down there. And
We've talked about going skiing. We've just never, you know, because we do still have like a little one.
yeah, and
It just has not been a good time to like really like. She's only 2, and so like figuring that out is sort of.
I want to say Boo was maybe that same age when we went to North Carolina for Christmas that one year.
Was she?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Because
she was still a baby.
Yeah.
She was still in diapers.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, we all went as a family, and I think
Mhm.
like, I did a lot of babysitting that weekend. You know, and so that. Yeah, I think we would probably wait till they're a little bit old. You know, at least she's a little bit older, so she could actually participate. So
Yeah.
they have. So skiing's definitely on our bucket list.
Yeah,
I really want to go out west. So
yeah,
there are things that like I would like to do with them
yeah.
before Olivia gets out of the. There are some things that I would definitely like to do before my oldest leaves the house.
Oh yeah. There's a lot you can do, especially with a little one.
That's why we love camping so much because there's like lots to do
Yeah.
for all ages, and so it's just sort of chill, and you can explore
Yeah, and
on all levels.
it's a great thing that all of your kids enjoy the camping because I'm pretty sure if any of your kids were like me, they would be whining, complaining, and absolutely miserable the entire time.
Well, and I think that's why the camper's nice because Liz is definitely not like.
She's not as outdoorsy as the rest of them.
It kind of gives you escape from the outdoors if
Yeah.
you need it, you know. Or like, Liz is not super. Oh, like none of my kids. Well, several of them are kind of like their dad, and they don't. They get overstimulated by a lot of
Yes,
people.
that
very
I'm the exact same way.
So, you know, that's what's nice about camping too, because like when we went to camper to Six Flags, you know, we did a lot of social kind of like around a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so that got very overwhelming for Liz. Like we literally had, like, she was just not used to being
Around, yeah, that's
a bunch of like people she didn't know.
Yeah,
You know, she's fine when she's around people, for the most part, around people that she knows.
yeah,
But when you're surrounded by crowds of strangers, it
Yeah.
was just like, it was a lot on her. So that's what's nice about camping is so you kind of have an escape from that.
mm-hmm. You know, there can be a big crowd of campers, but then you're like, okay, I need a break. Go inside your camping area.
Right. So, I mean, we've been to a few crowded, like, campgrounds where they're kind of like, but we usually try to stick to, like, state parks, so they're sort of spread out and it's a little more woodsy, I guess, because we kind of like the natural.
I know Ryan
stuff.
would like to go camping more.
Oh yeah, he loves camping.
He
Me and
does.
him grew up doing some camping and hiking. We love it.
I am a small town girl. I enjoy my amenities, and I am absolutely miserable camping. I am. I don't want to be. I love the idea of camp.
Do you think you would like it if you had a camper though?
Probably.
Just so like you could be a good sport and like sit out and drink your coffee outside with him.
Yeah.
But then like you could go back in.
Yeah.
And just chill.
I'm done with it.
I think you need to start like talking. Like you go and hike with Boo all day long, and y'all can come back and tell me all about it.
And that's really great. Boo enjoys doing that kind of thing. She loves going fishing. If she had the patience for hunting, she'd love to go hunting.
Brian, get Samantha a camper, and y'all can do.
Well, he's always looking at these campers on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm like, we just can't afford it right now.
Right. Well, yes, we love it. We love camping. It kind of like I get to go and explore different places.
Yeah.
And Daniel gets the separation
Yeah.
of the people.
Yeah. And his job is pretty chaotic as
And
is.
he does. He's a very like quiet. And I'm not gonna say he's not. He's a very genuine person. Like
He is.
He cares about people very deeply, and but yeah, when
He has
comes
to have
back,
that separation.
He has a very social job, which is really funny because it's opposite of his personality, and he has to like perform all week.
I'm the
And when he
exact
comes home,
same
he
way.
wants to be home, and he wants to be with his family, and he wants to. It's all about us.
Yeah.
It's not a so.
He comes back
It's
from
a
work.
good-
Give me 10 minutes.
And that's why we love camping, because he can be with just us, and we're in our own personal space.
Yeah.
We're not in like if we went to a hotel or something, that's somebody else's space.
Yeah.
Or that's us. It's
Yeah,
not
you have to be more
ours.
careful with everything else. Well,
So that's one of our things. Yeah.
as you were talking about, Daniel gets overstimulated. Has he ever talked about being overstimulated with the kids at any point? Because I know.
So Daniel grew up with, and he only has one sister.
Yes,
He's
I knew
like
that.
4 or 5 years younger than him. So, it's not like they're close now, but I don't think like when they were little, it's not like.
Yeah, like he was, he had his thing, she had
He had a little
hers.
sister, so so he grew up in a very quiet, and his family's very quiet. So very quiet. And so when he married me, obviously
His eyes were wide the entire time.
we're the direct opposite
Yes.
of it, right?
Yes,
And
very
so
much so.
you notice that when we have family things, right? And Daniel he goes outside and plays with the kids. So.
Yeah, I will separate. Like I love y'all's family so
Right.
much, but
Well, it can be overstimulating for all of us, I think, at some point. But sure, I mean, I think it gets rowdy. I think we all get overstimulated sometimes by our loudness, and like just our immediate family too.
So you're saying that Liz is kind of the same as Daniel. How would you talk to a mother who was noticing these things but not realizing why their kid was always trying to separate themselves from activities that they were brought to, that they wanted to come to? Because Boo does not have that problem.
Right.
She is
Very
the
social
she
butterfly.
is.
And Dave Weston is this. DW's the same way.
Do you feel like any of your, the two littles, they might be like that? I know Joe is very shy when you first meet her.
Right. She takes a little warming up.
It took like 4 years.
Yeah, she didn't like like I said, we are attached at a different level, and she did not like anybody for at least 1 year. She didn't let anybody hold her or touch her except for me. And I had to be holding her, touching her 24/7. Or she was just miserable.
Yeah.
And so
I don't
know that. I don't know.
What are some ways that you soothe Daniel and Liz's overstimulation?
Well,
I can tell you what I do for mine, because Boo doesn't have the same problems, and because her being the social butterfly, for me, when it comes to soothing my overstimulation, I have my tics, and that's the squeezing of my hand or the rubbing of my fingers.
Well, we talk about it a lot, and so one thing that I do for Liz, now Daniel, his life circumstances have changed have changed him.
Yeah.
Like, he's way more social now. Now he's like, he will talk your ear off.
Yeah.
And that's different. One-on-one is different than, like,
in a group setting.
Being in a large crowd of people you don't know and trying to keep an eye on your kid. I think that's different. As far as Liz goes, I do push her a little bit to do the hard things, to speak up, to, because she's in a familiar situation, she can talk.
Oh, yeah, she can.
And she can have brilliant conversations with you, but if she's in an uncomfortable situation, so for example, we went to Chick-fil-A one day, and we were sitting there, and she said, "Mom, I would like, I don't know, maybe it was ketchup, I can't remember." And I said, "Well, you need to go ask the lady at the front desk if she can have ketchup." And she
I'm good.
Almost died.
She paled.
Elizabeth, this is a hard thing.
It is.
It's a hard thing for you, and I understand that, but we have to do hard things sometimes, okay? This is part of growing up. You are going to have to learn to speak to people you don't know. And I made her, and it was a battle, but I made her do it.
Yeah.
And she did it, and she was very proud of herself because she was able to do it. She got past it. I said, "See, you've done it. You didn't love it.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it again for a while."
Oh, yeah. I needed 3 weeks to recover.
But you grew. You did the hard thing. You saw that you could do it, and you
and you can do it now. Now you can do it again.
It's important to do hard things. And there are times that I definitely have to be like, "Liz, go take a minute by yourself and calm down and take a deep breath. It's okay."
Because I know for me, if I have not been able to find a way to relieve the stress from the overstimulation, I get snappy, I get irritated.
Right.
And, Ryan is really kind of learning all this
sensory play, like you're talking about, like you were saying with your hands. Sensory play, I realize, kind of calms her.
It is, and it's a lot of that's people with autism do that. Like, they find something that is, it's really kind of where the squishy fidget toys came in, because they found that it helped children with autism.
She likes the slime, like different textured slime.
Exactly, yes.
Like different. So we do that,
and changing temperature. Like, if I get overwhelmed, I'm starting to get overwhelmed in anything, and it's really hot where I'm at, and I just go to a room with a completely different temperature or go outside.
That's interesting.
because it causes your brain to shift. I want to say there was something, it was somebody, it's like if somebody's having a panic attack, you have to put, the old, like prank, one hand in hot water, one hand in cold, and make somebody pee.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's having a panic attack, you have to, like, the people that are having a panic attack, their body temperature tends to rise.
Right.
So if you give them a piece of ice to hold, their brain is no longer thinking of why they are panicking or what is causing that panic. They're thinking about the coldness of the ice in their hand. It is calming their heart. It is calming their brain. And I did that recently. I can't remember where we were, but I kept constantly reaching into my cup because my ice was melting too fast. But I remembered that trick, and I was like, okay, I am slowly starting to feel better.
I think that's an interesting thought process in the sense of changing our thought perspective is so important. And so you're talking about having no kids or a few kids or a lot of kids. It's like, if you're a believer like us, changing our perspective, changing our thought process of things that the world tells us having too many kids, that's a problem.
Having no kids
is a problem, or whatever you feel like the pressures of society puts on us as far as our children go have nothing to do with us. If we change our perspective, so that ice might be being what would be our relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
It could be like, or prayer, or studying His Word, learning His Word, worship, anything like that takes the focus off the pressures of the world around us to go, okay, the Lord has us all in different places to fulfill His purpose, which is that we will come to know Him. Don't you think? Like, you were saying that, and I was just thinking, that's a really great perspective, is because we get so overwhelmed by the world and what it tells us to think and what it tells us to do. And they set these standards of, like, you need to be financially stable to have children. That's a ridiculous.
It is. And
concept.
And then another one is one kid is not enough, but 3 kids is too many, or 5 kids is too many. Because I constantly got asked.
I had someone told me that after you have after 4 they start calling you white trash. And I think they were joking, but I was just like, what?
What?
Who says this? I mean, I don't know. And people are so funny, but that they're told these things. It's like, I don't care.
No, it's like I knew, and
it just like what you're saying was such a good point. Is like we have to change, like get our brain to go
away from the panic.
Right, away from the panic, away from the expectations to one focus, which is Christ, right? It's kind of like He's the ice.
He is the ice.
He's changing our perspective.
He's very chill.
So He's changing our perspective to go, okay, this is not the point. Like, finance is not the point. Fancy vacation is not the point. How many times we, how many kids we have is not the point. He's the only point.
Exactly, because there's no doubt that if it was in God's plan for us to have more kids, I was going to have more kids whether or not I was on birth control. Right. Because, your family has no problem producing kids.
Right. And so, like, as far as birth control, like that was one thing that I was convicted about
After Liz.
just because it did so much damage to my body. I've had the different
You
kinds.
did.
I've done like pretty much every kind out there, and so after that, I washed my hands of that, and the Lord had to bring me to that. And I was just like, so at this point, and I'm not planning on doing anything permanent because my body has been through enough trauma. And so,
Well,
I
it's
have to
not just
live
you
with
that has
the
to.
reality of that, right? Like, I'm going to have to live with the reality of that, and that's okay.
Also, it's not just you that has to, who can, stop the process of kids.
And yeah.
I know Ryan and I have had that conversation because we have both realized, like, I am only mentally stable, and we've learned mentally stable enough to handle one kid, and a lot of that has to do with, hereditary mental conditions in my family, and my mother's history. And so, we did off and on talk about having another one, but it just never felt right. And, Ryan and I have had the conversation of him being... But...
Yeah. I mean, we've had these conversations, but I don't... that's not... We don't have a peace about that.
Yeah,
and so that's not something we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I really think that it's really one of those things that we have to go to the Lord for. And He gives
I
us
was just
perspective
about to
and
say
peace
that
about
something
that
you have to pray about.
You have to pray about it, and I just believe that if the Lord really wanted me to have another kid, He would strongly convict me about that. And if He didn't want me to have any more kids, He would give me a peace, and He would convict me about that too. Or He would just leave me, because I think I think the Lord cares about...
He does. And, people are like, oh, He's just this big
He
thing.
cares about my situation, my needs, He knows, like, what we,
what we're ready for and what we need.
He knows what we need, whether we know it or not. And I've just come to, like, accept that. And so, like, with every child I've had, my mind has been different places.
Oh, yeah.
It's been in either, like, that's what I wanted, or it wasn't what I wanted.
Surprise!
And I look back and I go, once again, like when I started, I was like, He was faithful when I was not faithful, because He knew what I needed. Mm-hmm. He knew what He wanted from me, and He knew I was in surrender to that. So
I honestly feel like that with when we found out I was pregnant with Boo, because the initial plan, and I don't know if it was the same with you and Daniel, is to at least wait a few years to establish ourselves as being married. Right. Because we didn't do the whole move in with each other like a lot of people do. Right. And, that's something that we didn't believe in.
Well, it's not biblical.
You're right. But, what I wanted was for us to wait a few years, get used to living with somebody that, while I had been dating for 2 years, I knew nothing about how he lived, if that makes sense, or functioned around his own house. Right. Like, I would go visit him when he was renting the house with Clay and Trevor at that point before we got married. And I'd go and, I'd do some of his laundry for him, cook him a few meals, but, didn't know how he went the day-to-day stuff. Mm-hmm. And, he didn't know about me either. And then, poof, think it was May, June, July, August, 3 months after getting married. Oh.
Yeah. So, do you think that the one reason that y'all just have kind of like stuck to just the one child at this point, do you think you suffered from postpartum depression?
I did, and I didn't.
And did you feel like you could speak about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of it. Well, there was the postpartum, and I think it was maybe a day and a half after I had Boo that I got the hormonal birth control put in. The IUD.
You got an IUD.
Yeah.
You got an IUD.
It was hormonal, so obviously that wasn't going to help the postpartum depression. And I think something else that would have helped me is if people had talked about that kind of thing.
And they don't.
They don't. Well, they do.
Well,
they do now.
Information.
Yes.
Right. Because information has changed.
Yes, and the way you get information and give it is changed.
But I wish that you could have been like, I'm suffering right now. I don't know what it is.
I wish I could have been like that. And
do you think if you would have had the support you needed to work through that, like the information and the knowledge to work through that? Because I know people have suffered from it, and so they've had other children, and they know they're prone to it. So now they have to be proactive in dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so, do you think had you had the tools in your toolbox, would that have changed your mind about kids?
Yes, I do.
But you feel like you have what do you feel like that
I don't think I would have done, we would have gone for the full 4, like I was, like we had talked about. I think just 2 would have made both of us happy. And I know a lot of people are like, well, would you want a boy or a girl? And I'm like, I want a healthy child. And that seems kind of cliche.
Right.
Because Daniel loves all his girls.
Sure.
Is he excited that Dee was born?
Sure.
Yeah. No doubt.
And they're so different, like,
Exactly.
But yes, Daniel loves his girls very, 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 very much. And he loves his boys.
Mm-hmm.
But so you think you would have had more had you had, like, the information and the tools in your box, and the support you needed, and the understanding to, like, work through? Because I kind of think, like, I know that postpartum depression is it's chemical a lot of times, but it's also like
it is chemical, but the majority of it is, it's not chemical. It seems to like mental.
It's mental, and when you get left alone in that,
exactly,
it makes it a lot harder.
It does,
when you get left alone to your own mental, like,
because we were so far from any family members. That,
and you feel like there's a lot of shame tacked to that. I feel like a lot of people feel like there's shame, like they couldn't say, I don't feel good. I shouldn't, because look at Whitney over here. I mean, she's done had 3 kids and she's fine. You know what I mean?
I do, and I talk about it.
I feel bad. Like, I think about that, when they get, like as a comparison, because I don't have that same story, even though I've dealt with some severe depression. But I felt the same shame in the sense of I can't talk about it, because then I'll look like I'm complaining or I'm ungrateful.
And that's the generation that we grew up in. You were told to get over it.
Right.
And maybe not directly by your parents, but society in general. Oh well, get over it.
And it's really a spiritual like it's a spiritual battle, you know,
It is.
in the sense of like the dark forces want to tell you like
You're not worth it. No one's going to want to help you get over it.
like you're supposed to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is no one should have expected you from coming. Like I had my mom who trained me.
Basically, yeah.
And I watched her birth 6 children and babies and raise babies. So that, I mean, I had almost like a degree in
and all your cousins
in
too.
what to like basics. Even though parenting has looked different, but like basic knowledge of how to. So I just think it's crazy that, and I feel a lot of like an enormous amount of compassion, but an enormous amount of like compassion and empathy, and want to speak into young moms' lives who are somehow crazily expected to know how to do things.
I do understand that, because that I think is eventually in the future going to be an episode. We are expected to know these things, and now we can because of social media, the internet. But when we were growing up and becoming parents, or thinking about becoming parents, we didn't know a lot of the stuff. I didn't know about that.
We just didn't have that access
Exactly.
to information like we have now.
You're expected to, but we're expected, if we went to school, expected.
I meant to say access. And I was joking. Okay.
They expect you to know this from the little that they are teaching you in school, at least teaching me in school. Like, I knew the mechanics of how to get pregnant, and that was it. I wasn't taught, how to deal with a lot of the pregnancy symptoms, or what I was supposed to do after. Like, I don't know if I told you, I think I told your mom, but like 3 months after Boo was born, we were coming to your parents' old house for dinner. I think it was a family thing. I was in the back with Boo, and all of a sudden, I just broke down. I was exhausted. I hadn't slept, and the whole thought of me sleeping when the baby sleeps, I'm like, what if something happens to her while I'm sleeping? And, Ryan's like, just let her, in the middle of the night when she would cry, he'd be like, just let her cry. She'll stop. Yeah. I don't think at the time he realized, as somebody who had no real experience with babies or being a parent or anything like that, that drove my panic even higher. My anxiety was rising. And then I broke down in your parents' driveway while we were sitting in the vehicle, and he's looking around like, what's wrong? It's like, I'm tired, and I don't know what I'm doing. And, and that's where he started stepping up more. Not that he wasn't, helping or anything, but I think I wasn't allowing him to help. Because in those 3 months, at really the 3-month mark, I wasn't producing, so we didn't do breastfeeding. Right. But I wasn't allowing him to take care of the baby or anything around the house. And I think I let that postpartum depression bring me down to, because postpartum depression should end in a year of having the baby.
If no other symptoms arise, maybe.
Exactly. Or if you don't typically suffer from depression.
These are a lot of things, we've learned, through research and, watching studies and stuff that we've learned. And you know, and I hate that for you. And like even though I dealt with depression,
Well,
in a sense,
I hadn't
I would have
realized.
been able to help you
Exactly.
because of where I was in my own bad little,
Mm-hmm.
because I was pregnant while she was 3 months old, so I was probably in the thick of it, you know. My
It
own
wasn't until
child.
years later that you had talked about it. I think we were like,
Right.
I can't remember, but we were
I
somewhere
mean, there
with
were
your
several
mom.
times like I've dealt with depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like one time, I can't remember. It was before we lived across the road from each other,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, we were supposed to go on a vacation, and I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
So I had to leave. I didn't like leaving my bubble, and I just like broke down and cried on the front porch, and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't pack. And you were like, yeah, you can, and
Yeah.
you were kind of like talking me through it. And after I talked to you, you know, and that's why I feel so like, and you helped me get through that. Just being able to just like get it out, and that's why it's so important. Like with your podcast and with everything you're doing, and like talking right now is like. And I was just talking to another friend this week, and we just had like this 5-hour talk, just like kind of getting all out of just we've got to be proactive and being supportive of each other whatever your kid situation, your family situation looks like. We've got to be okay. You need to talk about this, talk about it,
And
realize.
you got to remember too, if you want somebody to talk about something, sometimes they just need that listening ear. They don't need somebody to fix it.
Yes,
And that's really, I think, what you kind of wanted when you were talking about that. You just wanted to say something and just to get it out.
Yeah, and it's so important that we support each other and just be that ear if that's what's needed, and always be able to go, hey, the Lord's going to see you through this, right? The Lord's going to see you through this, and we're going to praise Him for what He's doing and what He will do through this situation, and just kind of report it back to our goal, because we have one common goal. It looks different. We're all going in different directions.
Yeah.
But as believers, and I pray today that if there's anyone listening that's not a believer, they become a believer, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm going to pray for that. But
And I think
even as Christians, us moms, we forget that, you know, our life looks different, and we sometimes lack compassion.
Yeah.
Through that, and we also and we want to, I don't know, like I think I'm learning that. That's something I'm learning over the years, because I know I've definitely been that person where it's like, why, you know, of course it's different like when you have sin involved.
I don't think lack of compassion is it. It's more, as Christian mothers, sometimes we're more judgmental, because there might be something that somebody is doing that seems way out of this world. Like the thought of a midwife when I was pregnant with Boo and you were pregnant with Liz, we never would have thought of doing that. We thought it was something way too secular.
I have always wanted to have one at home, though. I never had Daniel talked into it until the youngest one came along, but
yeah, and that turned out fine.
Yeah,
she turned out great.
Yeah, but you're right. Like you're right in saying that. Like we, you know, people have their different
not mindsets, styles, and no style of parenting is the same. They might be similar in some aspects, but they're not going to be the exact same, because, you know, the way that you're raising your kids is similar, but not the same as the way that I'm raising Boo. You know?
Right. And, you know, and things, and I think it's like if we're in a place where we can encourage one another, if the Lord is showing us something, we encourage one another to, and also be open to not necessarily criticism, but just like a different thought.
Yes.
Different, like, hey, you know what? I saw such and such do this, and you know, and that's a place that I'm weak in. You know, I'm not strong in this area. I wonder how I could learn how to do that.
Exactly.
You know, and grow and be a source of like helping each other grow.
Exactly. A
Support and growth is so important. And so, like, as moms, don't get stuck
or stingy.
Right. Don't get stuck in a place and say, well, this is just the way I am, and this is just the way I do things. Be mindful. Look around and say, hey, if you admire something about someone, ask them about it, talk to them about it, and see how you could grow from that. Because there's people out there that I admire and I love what they're doing, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know?
You're still on step 1 and they're 38.
Right, and they're like, I'm not there, but there's little things I can do that I know that I can do.
Yeah, exactly.
To be better.
Yes, to reach the goals that they have.
Well, the goals that I have.
Oh, yeah. Or, yeah.
To reach my goals.
Yes.
Right, and maybe use some of their wisdom.
Exactly.
To reach.
And I think as also possible future grandparents or in-laws, we can learn to share the wisdom with, our kids' family. But also remember not to shove it down their throats. Because you were saying, people you admire, they do something this way and, you like it, but you can't do it that way. I guess I had the thought in my head and it just flew away.
I get what you're saying, though, like, expectations is different from encouragement.
Yes.
So, like, when somebody's putting their expectations on you, it's different. But also, like,
they're not allowing you to grow in a healthy way. I think the best example I can think of, because this couple that I listened to their podcast, they talk a lot about how people fold towels differently.
Okay.
And, the towels still get folded, but just wasn't in the same way.
Oh, fold. I thought you said sold. And I was like,
I'm sorry. Towels.
I don't know how you sell a towel, but I want to know. I don't hear very well.
No.
Okay.
People.
Not the greatest listener.
People fold. I'm pretty sure the way you fold towels is different than how I fold towels. I know for sure Ryan had to learn to fold my way. But, in the end, towels are still folded and put away.
Right. Or not.
Oh, yeah. Or just set aside to grab. I've been guilty of that. But they still get folded.
Right. And I think, that's a good analogy. Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
So, all good stuff. Just trying to think if I had anything.
Do you have any more questions for me? Or something that you've been wondering?
No, I think I'm sorry that you went through postpartum depression. I'm sorry that I couldn't be a part of, like, the healing in that.
I understand that, yeah.
And looking back, but
I think in a way you were, and some of the times you offered to watch Boo so that I could be alone and get things done, because I think in my mindset of the depression, it's like I can't do anything around the house that will take me out of the room the baby is in, especially when she started crawling and then walking.
Right. And if you can't get past if you can't calm your mind, it's kind of hard to look at what's physically going on around you sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Mine sort of acts differently. Like, I have to get it, like, I'm kind of like...
You see more of the broad picture than the little pieces?
I was saying, like, I deal with my anxiety by, like, being busy. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think my grandmother...
And if I have to sit still and deal with anxiety, I'm like...
you can't do it. I can't.
I want to be, like, scrubbing something. Give me a good pot and I'll
get those stains.
Yeah. So, and I think it's funny how we're all different too. But I don't think if we see a sister in Christ or any sister at all, struggling, that we have to be proactive in speaking into their life with love.
Exactly.
And I think that's a hard lesson that I've had to learn over the years.
As have I.
And it's a hard lesson to learn.
As humans in general.
Because we're so imperfect.
Yeah. I like to say the only time you'll be perfect is when you're dead.
Even then, right?
Yep. But we need to be not only open as parents for getting advice, but to know when not to. Like, you might see somebody struggling and you're like, oh, I have the perfect thing for this. They may just need to struggle, because those are some of the hardest lessons, because there were so many mistakes I made. And, because we live so far away from people, there were mistakes I made that while I could have asked for advice, but I didn't. I made the mistake of not asking for the advice, and it got me open to saying, hey, what can I do for this problem?
Right.
But we shouldn't force our advice onto people. Like, if you see somebody struggling, you should ask them, would you like to know what I did? Because, you have 5 kids. So you have 5 different ways of fixing a problem or handling children.
Right. And, as someone who wants to solve problems, and I don't want to see people struggling, that's probably something that I would struggle with. And and of course, like, people who are not open to hearing, like, we're all at different places. So some people are, like, you can give them advice all day long and they're not going to hear it, because
exactly,
they kind of love to wallow in their self-pity and struggles.
I know.
Because we've all been there. Yeah. We've all been there. There's definitely times, and I'm speaking to my own self here, because there's definitely times when somebody's tried to tell me something and I refuse to listen because I was reveling in my problems.
You were having,
and I was like, I just want to suffer.
I want this pity party. Let me have it.
I want this pity, and I look back and I go, they were right, but I just wasn't willing to hear it. And the Lord had to convict me of that. And so you can speak into somebody's life. Mm-hmm. You can speak in love and go, hey, I see you're struggling. Is there something I can do to help? But if they don't want help, they're not going to get it.
Exactly.
Like, if we don't want it, we're not going to get it. And that's going to be left up to the Lord. And oftentimes the Lord does not leave me. He doesn't leave me there. I'm I'm just gonna have to suffer longer because I didn't take the advice of the person he sent to send it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that was my own problem.
It's the story of the man that's constantly asking God for signs, and several signs came, and he's like, no, 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 and basically God asks, what are you waiting? What are you looking for? I've given you all of these signs. I didn't hear you.
That's not the one I wanted.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't what I wanted. All right. What is one piece of advice throughout all of having your kids? What is one piece of advice you would give a first-time mom, whether it's like food, clothes, just anything that you learned throughout all of your pregnancies?
Well, there's a few things that I learned over the years from different people that have given me different advice.
Mm-hmm.
And one that has always stuck with me is trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. You're the mom.
Yeah.
Nobody knows your baby better than you do.
And like when you're pregnant, nobody knows your body better than you do.
Right. Be willing to take in all the information, because you're going to get a lot of information, and then be okay when your expectations don't work out and you have to do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If you want to be a sleep trainer and that doesn't work out for you, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. Your baby's going to be fine. If co-sleeping is not something, like, you might have a kid like mine who didn't want to co-sleep. Like my oldest. There's no need for co-sleeping. She doesn't like to be touched. And if you're like Joe, you're going to have no choice but to co-sleep.
Exactly.
Because otherwise you will never sleep a day in your life unless
you have to get a bigger bed or have a section of the bed marked off for that one kid.
And, and so be okay with, take a deep breath.
Be okay with changing what you expected.
Be okay with changing with your perspective. Be okay with taking in all the information and going, that works, that doesn't work. Okay? Because it's all in. Don't get settled on anything, because
oh yeah,
each kid is going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Because it's just the way it is. So, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't get left alone in your struggles.
Definitely.
Okay? Don't get left alone. Speak to somebody. Okay? Talk to somebody about if you're struggling with something, talk to someone about it.
And
find somebody.
And it doesn't have to be somebody that you know in your life. It can just be a stranger. Like there are exactly
help.
there.
You can go to a counselor. You can go to someone in your church that you could trust,
Mm-hmm.
a friend, a family. Just find somebody that you can speak, that can speak light and truth into your life.
Exactly. Right.
That would be it.
That would be it. That's great advice. I think we'll end that.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, thank you again, Whitney, for coming and spending time and giving your truth, which is very enlightening. And I think...
And I hope my truth has been his truth.
Exactly, yes. I hope if somebody's struggling with anything, with being a first-time mom, or they've just found out they're pregnant with their 5th kid, or more, that, something in here was helpful. And if you as a listener has anything, any advice, recommendations for anything, let me know. You can send any comments, questions, or recommendations to southernmillennialmoms@gmail.com.